Doctor Who's first monsters have plagued the Whoniverse time and time again. Now, these pepper pots first appeared in 1963 and from the very beginning were a chilling force to be reckoned with. The Daleks have one of the most iconic looks in sci-fi culture, and whilst the designs have altered slightly over the years, the core design remains the same. Every Doctor has come across the Daleks many times during their time on screen, with the exception of the criminally short-lived 8th. Now, due to the depth expanded media has gone with these characters, we will be covering moments beyond just that of the TV series. And so, with that in mind then, I'm Ellie with Who Culture, here with the 10 worst things the Daleks have ever done. Number 10. Only the monstrous The Thousand Worlds. In 2015, Big Finish acquired the rights to New Who content, and their first exploit into this era was a series for the War Doctor venturing into the Time War. Now, the first audio adventure for the War Doctor saw the Daleks invade a planet called Keska, along with another ruthless race, the Talians. Now, on the surface, invading a planet and enslaving the locals is a pretty generic thing for the Daleks to do, but this particular invasion is part of a much larger plot. Keska is one of 1,000 planets, all invaded by the Daleks, and all with engines being placed at the center of those planets. Now, of course, we have seen the Daleks trying to place engines in planets before, but we'll talk a bit more about that later. But what is the purpose of these planet engines? Well, it's pretty simple. They're going to fire them at Gallifrey to try and win the Time War. Now, that's one hell of an offensive against the Time Lords, to invade 1,000 planets, enslave all those populations, and then make those people drill to the core of their own planets. It's all one very sick scheme. But thankfully, the Doctor and co managed to stop this particular plot, and the war rages on, and the Daleks go on to commit even more atrocities. Number 9. Dark Eyes, the Dalek Time Controller. The Big Finish 16-part epic Dark Eyes starring the 8th Doctor sees a unique kind of Dalek take centre stage, the Time Controller, and it's no exaggeration to say this is one of the worst Daleks out there. Having made various appearances in Big Finish before this story, the Dalek Time Controller has proved a force to be reckoned with, but Dark Eyes is their big moment. Using the Doctor's companion Molly, who's infected with retrogenitor particles, he planned to undo the Time Lord's past, wiping them out. But thankfully, due to a paradox, this is unsuccessful in the first part of the series, but the Time Controller still vows to wipe out the Time Lords. After these events, he is exiled by the Daleks and allies himself with the Master. In the end, the Time Controller seeks out the origins of the Eminence, a psychic force that's a comparable threat to the universe as the Daleks, and wishes to become one with it. Thankfully for the Whoniverse, this plot is foiled by the Doctor and his companions. But if the Time Controller had succeeded, then the Time Lords could have been wiped out before the Time War even began. If there is a Big Finish audio adventure that you should sink your teeth into, it's this one. Number 8. The Magician's Apprentice and Witch's Familiar tricking the Doctor. The latest reunion between the Doctor and Davros sees the Time Lords summoned to the planet of the Daleks, Skaro, to meet with their dying creator. After long chats between these two arch rivals, the Doctor is made to feel sympathy for Davros, who is unable to open his own eyes to watch the sunrise on Skaro one last time. To fix this, the ever kind-hearted Doctor elects to give the creator of the Daleks some of his regeneration energy, thinking it enough to allow him this final moment. When the Doctor unleashes his Time Lord gift into the cables connecting Davros to the rest of the Daleks, Colony Sarf, a snake-like being, secures him in place, siphoning off even more regenerative energy. This energy is taken and transferred into every single Dalek, renewing them, including Davros, allowing him to regain his strength. However, once rescued by Missy, the 12th Doctor reveals he knew the plan all along, including the Daleks in the sewers who revolt, destroying the Daleks in the Skaro city. This resulted in us once again being led to believe Davros has been destroyed, although we all know that that's most likely not the case. The evil of this plot, even if the Doctor did know what was coming, is that the Daleks try to use the Doctor's kind-hearted nature against him, even for his worst enemies. Number 7. Asylum of the Daleks, OSWIN, Oswald the Dalek. Now, we've seen cyber conversion many times in Doctor Who, but that seems like nothing when compared to Dalek conversion. With cyber conversions, the process puts the participant into the cyber armour, but then removes all feelings, whereas the horror of the Dalek conversion is that hatred and anger are channeled in order to make the machine go. In the Series 7 opener, when venturing into the Dalek asylum, OSWIN Oswald ends up captured by the Daleks inside and goes through the horrific conversion into a Dalek. This reality is so horrific for her that she imagines herself a different version of events. Trapped within the cold metal shell, OSWIN believes herself to be hiding within her crashed ship making soufflés. It's not until the Doctor turns up that she sees the true fate that has befallen her. The moment in which OSWIN learns the truth is soul-crushing, and the following flashback of her being forced into the process, whilst not graphic, still feels gruesome. The only positive in the end is that OSWIN manages to fight the process, allowing and assisting the 11th Doctor to escape. Now, granted, this isn't some huge invasion that puts countless lives at risk, but the ordeal that OSWIN goes through is horrific. Number 6. The Daleks' Master Plan, the Time Destructor. The huge 60s epic, The Daleks' Master Plan, was exactly what it said on the tin. William Hartnell's last encounter with the Daleks came in the form of a 12-part serial in which the Daleks had created a new weapon, the Time Destructor. Their intention was to conquer the solar system. The device would reverse or accelerate the flow of time with devastating consequences, exhausting its terranium core, a mineral only found on Uranus. Whilst this is thankfully going to become a repetitive trend, the Dalek plot is halted. However, the device is still used. Not only does the serial feature the first and second companion deaths in the franchise, they are also both equally two of the grimmest fates befallen to Who characters. Katrina's death technically does not involve the Daleks, however, during the series she is awfully sucked into space. But Sarah Kingdom falls victim to the Time Destructor itself, basically aged to death, decaying to nothing. Now, this device is actually later used by the Time Lords against the Daleks in that previously mentioned Big Finish War Doctor series in the opening moments. But it does represent the huge threat presented by the Daleks if not stopped. Number 5. Planet of the Ogrons, the Overseer. Another slightly altered Dalek appearing in Big Finish here. The Dalek Overseer is a monstrous scientist who appears in the 8th Doctor's Time War series. Based on the titular planet of the Ogrons, the Overseer creates dreadful experiments in order to create weapons to win the Time War. Now, the Daleks have done some pretty gruesome things in their history, but none so bad as this abomination. One of the experiments revolved around inserting Ogron brains into battle TARDISes to bypass their controls. Another one of the Overseer's schemes was the insertion of Ogron armies into events of the past, such as Day of the Daleks. But thankfully these events remained unchanged, but the aim was to try and increase the Daleks' chances of victory through temporal manipulation. A final major creation is Dr. Ogron, where he augmented an Ogron with the personality of the Doctor. Now, while he did make a lovable character here, this guy is still bad news, and this particular experiment did lead to his downfall. In the end, he was deemed an insult to the Dalek race and was exterminated by the other Daleks. Number 4. The relationship with their creator. 1975's Genesis of the Daleks debuts the Pepper Pot's creator, Davros. Through his various appearances throughout the show, we've seen the Daleks treat their creator with varying levels of respect. The end of his first appearance, after having just created the Daleks, a squad of them come and exterminate Davros. But by the next serial, they want him back, with him, thankfully for them, having survived within the depths of Skaro. Across the remainder of his classic appearances, Davros starts the Imperial Renegade Civil War, where the Imperials side with him against the Supreme and the Renegades. When Davros returns for New Who, the 10th Doctor even mocks that he is chucked away into the basement, with them simply using him once again, without him running the show. The lack of respect is therefore a running trend in Davros's character, and in the previously mentioned Series 9 opener, it is clearer than ever that he is only ever used when they wish to use him for their own gain, rather than out of any loyalty to him. Now, we know the Daleks are evil, but showing no respect for for want of a better word, your father? That's just truly nasty, even if Davros is just as evil, if not worse. Number 3, the Stolen Earth and Journey's End, the reality bomb. When Davros returned to Doctor Who for its new series, he brought with him the Daleks' most horrific plot to date. Already in the serial, Davros has recreated the Daleks using his own cells, which is pretty bleak as it is, but with this new army he created the reality bomb. The device would result in untold devastation, killing all that wasn't protected by the Crucible. Basically a very extreme version of wiping out all non-Dalek life. Using the Z neutrino energy of the Dalek Crucible and the transported planets within the Medusa Cascade, the reality bomb would cancel out the electric field of atoms, turning everything to dust. This plot would not just wipe out the main Who universe, but the life of all other universes. But we won't get into the potential plot holes of that. The recreating an entire Dalek army and moving 27 planets is a testament to the lengths the Pepper Potts were willing to go for this scheme. And while this plot does fail, we do see the devastation that this device is capable of when it is tested on a group of humans who, as mentioned, quite literally turn to dust. Number 2, Revelation of the Daleks using the dead of Necros. 1985's Revelation of the Daleks sees the 6th Doctor and Perry encounter Davros and the Daleks on a planet called Necros, the location of tranquil repose, a space funeral home. However, at its core, Davros was creating a new race of Daleks from the dead humans. Revelation through and through is a very bleak story, but Davros using the corpses within the facility is the most appalling aspect. In this story, the dead are used for 2 things: the previously mentioned new Daleks, as well as being formed into a new type of protein to solve the galaxy's famine problem. That doesn't seem a very marketable product. These new Daleks become the ranks of Davros's previously mentioned Imperial Daleks. This plot is an interesting one, as using humans, like the case with OSWIN years later, to create Daleks seems to go against their quest for racial purity. Now, we could argue that this shocking Dalek moment could take top spot, but there is one more Dalek moment that just about takes the trophy. Number 1, 22nd century Dalek invasions of Earth. In the 22nd century, the Daleks invade Earth twice, crippling the planet. The first Dalek sequel brings the creatures from Skaro to Earth for the first time, and years later Big Finish brings them back for round 2, 20 years after their first attempt. The strategy for invasion involved bombarding the planet with meteorites, unleashing a plague from within the meteorites, which wiped out the majority of people in Africa, Asia and South America. Once the population was weakened, the Daleks moved in for conquest. This may seem kind of run-of-the-mill compared to previously mentioned entries, but the Daleks occupied Earth for 10 years, causing insurmountable pain to humanity. Recent Big Finish adventures following the Doctor's granddaughter Susan after the first invasion claim Earth's technology is set back 200 years. Similar to the Thousand Worlds plot, the Daleks aim to reach the centre of the planet and replace it with a propulsion system to use as a massive movable base of operations to conquest the galaxy. When they return for their second invasion, led by the Time Controller, the plot is fairly similar, but instead they use a time warp engine to create a plague planet, capable of moving through time and space to weaken and infect other worlds. The Daleks are the most pure evil force in Doctor Who, and the Whoniverse should be thankful that most of these plots were stopped before the Daleks reached their goals. And that concludes our list. If you can think of anything we missed, then do let us know in the comments below, and while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and tap that notification bell. Also head over to Twitter and follow us there at Who Culture, and I can be found across various social medias just by searching Ellie Littlechild. I've been Ellie with Who Culture, and in the words of Riversong herself, goodbye, sweeties.